You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
From kitchen chaos to well-oiled machines, get ready for newfangled technology and old-school know-how. Stories and a good bit of fun. I'm Simon, and this is Culinary Mechanic. Joining me today is Patrick Cassata. Chef, welcome to Culinary Mechanic.
Thanks for having me. Honestly.
Absolutely. I think that as I look back, you and I connected rather recently over LinkedIn. And man, I got to go through your profile and look at your work history. You've done some really cool things over the years, man. I'm excited about getting to hear about some of it and just see what comes of it all. But the way we've sort of formed this podcast is to say we're going to press on the gas and just go all the way back and give me a little Batman Begins action and tell me, how'd you get into this industry?
Well, thanks again for having me on here. I thought your article on LinkedIn that started this whole thing was actually I never comment on LinkedIn at all, and it was the first time I actually did because I felt it was a really, of all the chef written stuff that I read, a lot of it's just hyperbole garbage and like, oh, so the chef life, give me a break. Your article was the one that I was like, that's the shit that people need to hear and be understanding of. So again, thank you for that. I think more people who read that will benefit from it.
That means a lot to me, man. Thank you.
Welcome. We're chefs, it's hard to really write and take a step back and think about the bigger picture, especially when you're talking about, somewhat mentoring the younger generation, which is a struggle right now, in my opinion. I'm sure many of people's opinions, but no one really wants to talk about that side of it yet. But I started out at 15. I grew up on Harlem Avenue in Chicago, and my dad, true story, said I was a bad kid and I needed to get a job. So I got a job at McDonald's just down the street from me. And, the funny thing was, I always consider myself, I'm a decent looking guy. I'm not, some oafy looking dude. I'm like, I work the register. And they put me right in the kitchen. And I did well. They were like, wow, you really, back then you did the onions and all this stuff to order. And you did all the bread toasting and you cooked the burgers, you seasoned them. So it was somewhat like cooking, not like now you just pop it in a drawer and they warm it up. And I ran these rushes with quarter pound and single size by myself. And they were like, you're really, for 15 and 16-year-old kids, like, wow, you're really good at this. And that's what got me going, and it was easy for me. So all through high school, I worked in restaurants, pizza places, and burger joints most of the time. And, it was easy. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I always said to me, like, even when I was a kid, food spoke to me, in a sense. Like, I could see things were right. They were ready. I could smell things. Even when I was in culinary school, I remember walking by the bakery and I go, oh, bread's ready. And the teacher ran out, she's like, you can smell that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're going somewhere. And, it's like, that's a silly little thing, but it's like, again, as I get older, when I see someone who gets it, yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, what are you doing right now? What's your thoughts? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do in this life? Because I might be able to guide you from the mistakes I made, the regrets I have, moving along in the business. So
Yeah.
Begins was longer.
Oh no, that's exactly what I'm looking for, man. I love the sense. I love talking about the senses. My wife has recently tuned her ear to what it sounds like in the kitchen when she's sitting in the living room. Like she said to me recently, she's like, "You have mushrooms on." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I think they're starting to burn." And I said, "Why?" She says, "Because you say that because I tell her all the time, I'm like, the frequency goes up when the water goes down, right? So when all the water goes out, like there's no more bubbling, and all of a sudden the sound gets a higher pitch." And so she started listening, and so now she's my extra set of senses.
Yeah.
If I'm walking around the house while I'm cooking.
you can teach and talk about it, but really when you experience it and you're in tune with it. I mean, again, I think kind of weird, gravitational pull towards food and what it does and how it does it, but it really is, and that's technique, right? So that's definitely a skill set that can be trained in there for sure. And then there's that extrasensory part to it that I think really separates, I think, the chefs that stay in it longer to those that burn out because of the grind. I just don't think, we can get into that, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely think that the grind of the industry is something that is being talked about, thankfully, in my opinion, being talked about more and more. And I'm definitely one of those people that when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm talking about like what it does to people, and I try to talk on this show about what that can do to people, what that can, but also like let's back up a half a step and say, what are the things that we can do? What are the things that other industries have done? You know, when you look at professional sports, they're star players, those people that are making great plays, those are assets to them, right? Those are assets and resources, and they treat them like that. And so I think that there has to be some shift.
I agree with you. The hardest thing I think about what we in this industry, and I'm just going to speak from the back of house perspective, not the front of house perspective, because I think the back of house is a lot harder. We tend to be in there for 12 hours, where a service staff is there for 5, 6 hours. And they're really not, again, I'm not taking away the stress and anxiety that they have to deal with. Please don't anyone thinking from the front of house thinks I'm passionate. I'm not. Used to be known as a waiter hater back in my day, but that's not, the truth. It's just a matter of the back of house. They have a lot of burden, and they usually have to be the heroes to save the day on every mistake that's made, whether it's in the kitchen or in front of the back house. But I think the analogies of other businesses, and I've always said this to friends of mine who are, doctors, lawyers, these guys, everyone has stress. So that's the baseline. I get it. Everyone has stress. But not a lot of industries deal with working holidays, working weekends, working 12, 15 hours a day in hot kitchens at a high level of pace, stress and anxiety and pace, where everything's on the line. It is a low profit business. So everyone's looking to cut costs and cut corners, and hey, we're going to be slow for the next hour. Touch somebody, and it's like then that means everyone else has got to work harder at the end to clean up and clean it right. And then you get people like F it and they walk out, and the next day you walk into a dirty, shitty kitchen, like, what happened? I don't understand. And everyone's like burning out, right? So it's a tough analogy because I do agree with you. I think that the shift could happen where we understand that key players need to be taken care of. But the question becomes, how do you get taken care of in an environment where we are, for the most part, uneducated, we are undisciplined, right? I mean, I'm not some great scholar of studying books and stuff like that. I'm a chef because I don't like school. I don't like I don't have the attention for it, right? So it's like a plumber gets to work hard all day and other people's crap, to be honest. And they're usually, if they're a union plumber, they're 8 to 10 hours maybe, and then that's it. And they have a side job, hard job, whatever. But there's always a definitive time off, I think. And again, I'm not going to blow up the plumbers on this if they start getting mad at me, because I respect them. I'm just saying that for us, and when you're a manager, you're never off. You're always getting an email, a sales number, a guest satisfaction score. Somebody's always doing something. So even in your time off, you can't shut down. And a lot of times owners and other senior managers don't care that you're off. Hey, I need this answer. What happened last night? Like, I'm already like not happy at home right now because of it. And now you're going to ruin my day with my wife. She's like, we get one day and you ruin it, right? And she's exactly right. So the industry stuck on that aspect of trying to respect people's time and space away. I don't bother people on their days off. It has to be something so egregious that I can't figure it out. And I tell managers, you're paid to figure it out, right? But you have to have a support system within the company to allow that. And
absolutely.
Nowadays, everyone's on a cell phone. I mean, when I was younger, I'd unplug my phone from the wall. You can't reach me, because I felt I wouldn't answer the phone if it was ringing. My roommate said, "Let's turn the ring." I don't know. I just figured unplug it. The hell with it. I don't want I want the phone ringing, nothing. Everyone leave me alone today. And, there's a lot of conversation right now about people, you talk about Anthony Bourdain, Amberell, a lot of these chefs. Over time, there was a chef years ago who committed suicide. He had 2 Michelin star restaurants, was in massive debt, whatever. And the brink of all stuff. And again, I don't think it's any different than any other stress. People do that all the time in other businesses, but I never really heard about that stuff until more recently about chefs, not handling it well anymore. And I think it is the pressure and anxieties that happen, but it's also the systems that we don't have. We just don't have them, and I think what you said in your LinkedIn article was so good, was that there is a roadmap and a path to being successful. And there are people like, I think myself, like yourself, who have chosen to think differently about how we do and what we do, and then treating people differently. I got screamed at, yelled at as a young chef. Plates broken at my feet, fist fights in the kitchen. I mean, it was just horrible, right? And I tell these, look, you're making it up. I'm like, wish I would have had an iPhone. I could record it for you.
Oh, wouldn't that be the case? I got kicked in the shins once. Very, very gently. The chef, gently. He looked at me and he said, "We talked about how to plate this lamb dish yesterday. What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And I just look around and I hear the outcry from a younger generation of like, "Wow, you can't do those things," and they're right. And I wish that more people could understand how the things sort of have changed. I know that, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say the younger generation in the Midwest where you are is struggling the same way they are out here to understand what it is that has been, right? And I talked to a chef not too long ago, and he's like, these damn kids and rah, rah. And I said, yes, you're totally right. But here's the thing. The things they're saying are not wrong. They're just in a different context than we have accepted, right? Things change.
We also haven't done a good job of showing them the expectation, right? Because we got yelled at, people got kicked in the ass, for not staying behind you, things like that. And yeah, again, I didn't pass that on. I didn't become a chef and do those things because I don't believe in that, mentality of passing down the same kind of crap. So generational pain in the kitchen. So,
right.
But a lot of us have also struggled. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I hope, people understand what I'm trying to say is that when I was younger coming up, you basically had a lot of the kitchen was people going through culinary school, wanting to be a chef, wanting to be more, right? So you were to listen and get yelled at because my mentor chef was the biggest prick I've ever met in my life in the kitchen. Outside of it, he was the nicest, gentlest guy, and we became friends. He'd be like, "Let's go out drinking." And I'm like, "I don't want to drink with you. Like, I don't want to hang out with you." Because he was just an asshole, but he's a lion in the kitchen. And I learned a lot from him, tremendous amount. I am what I am because of him. Is that, but you don't have to do this. You could be a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic, whatever you want to be. You don't have to do this. And I went home like, he thinks I suck. But I was in culinary school, right? So nowadays, not that many of these young guys and gals that I'm meeting are actually culinary educated. These are just transient workers who are trying to make a living in the kitchen. And we get stuck with this. We don't have a tier anymore of sous chefs who are dying to be chefs. I have sous chefs who've been there for 30 years. That's all they want to do, sous chef. Mm-hmm. Great employee, solid individual, happy to have it. So, but at the same time, no one else can advance up. So I just have this kind of stuck ladder mentality where everyone's stuck on the same rung of the ladder and no one's going anywhere.
Right.
So I think that's also changed the industry as well. When we look back on, the 90s where everyone wanted to be the next great chef, and then it became this job sucks and only a few of them really stayed. Culinary institutes start just dropping like flies. We had several on Blue shut down. And then people don't want to work in the environment the way that they do. So you go to hotels, resorts. I'm at a country club now. You see some more talent there. Restaurants are just people just grinding through life with no real, mentorship and no real guidance towards, hey, what do you want to do? I'm 30. I don't know what I want to do. What do you mean? You're 30. I was already had my second EC job at that point.
Right.
Like, what do you, it's not a great paying gig. You got to start paying now and, putting in 401ks and investments. We had none of that stuff. None of that stuff. Back in the day, you got paid overtime in cash, straight cash, no overtime pay, just the cash.
Yep.
Holy stuff. How much money
I spent a summer in Provincetown, Massachusetts, where he said your first 40 hours will be on your check, and everything after that will pay you in cash. And he'd hand me an envelope every Friday, and
nice.
I accepted it because it was a seasonal gig. It's just funny, like I really think about all of this, and you're gonna have to pardon me because I get up on my soapbox. It's not too tall, so I stand up. But I will say that one of the biggest things for me as we look at this modern era where we can't yell, we can't scream. Well, for so many chefs, and don't get me wrong, I yelled and I screamed, but I didn't ever feel great about it. It was the tool I had. It's what I knew. But as we've taken that away, nobody's like backfilled, not nobody, but there hasn't been enough backfill of what do you do instead? And so what I see is so many chefs grinding away because they're just like, fuck it, I'll do it myself. How many times have you heard that from a young leader? And so all I can say is we have to get to a place where where teaching leadership skills is as important as a brunoise. Teaching leadership skills is as important as understanding skimming the demi-glace,
Yeah. I was at the chef conference in Jupiter, Florida in early September for was it CCMA? Anyways, this guy gave a speech on a presentation towards the end of it, talking about basically you have to go out and how to be hospitable to the members and the clients and guests and stuff like that, and all this stuff about being more personable. And when you come to these pre-shift meetings, bring the energy, bring the excitement. So I went up to him, again, no disrespect to anyone. I appreciate the 30-year-olds trying to make a living through podcasts. And I think it's great. Not my thing. It's great though. But I look at it, I go, you need. I went into him. I said, look, I get everything you're saying, and I have a personality. I walk into any restaurant that I'm coming to eat in, and people think I own it or I'm somehow involved in it. This is the way I walk. And I'm sure that when you walk in the restaurant, I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I don't walk like, where are they taking me to my table? I'm the first guy to like let the busboy go by. He's like, sir, no, you. I'm like, no, you. He's like, no, you. I'm like, oh shit, I don't work here. So my point, I have no problem helping you, right? So I don't know. I said, listen, you need to offer like some kind of like acting class or something for these guys. I go, 3/4 of this room is a chef because they have no personality. They want to hide in the back. They're not gonna take these pointers of have all this energy and personality. It's not natural. That's not natural for a lot of people, not just chefs, but to say this is what you need to do, to me, it's just, it fell short. It's like, I get everything you're saying, I do it, but I'm talking to these guys and they're duds. They're just, that's not how they may be great chefs, and that's what they should be focusing on, not trying to get out of themselves and fake it. It's just hard enough. And then you're not comfortable in your own skin. Give me a break. You're going to leave. So I just think that one of the things that you're just talking about when coming from your article too is, I think I mentioned in there, like, don't be the hero, and that's something that I said to me a long time ago. Why do you always got to be the hero? I'm like, well, if I'm not doing it, when I get involved, it gets done. And she's like, you're a fool. You're over qualifying or whatever. What I'm looking for is yourself. You're overthinking about it. And she was right. And I think that's the hardest thing is a lot of these young chefs, they think that they have to get back on the line and get them through the rush. And it's hard to just delegate down and delegate away. And I get it. I have an executive sous chef and then 2 sous chefs. I have support. Restaurants, you may not even have a sous chef or it's an hourly sous chef. So how much delegation can you get down? Who knows? But I think the hardest thing and the lesson I've learned is you got to get out of yourself and you got to think bigger. You know, you got to, the whole thing, a dress for success. You are what you wear. Start playing the role you want to be. And I think that's where a lot of people, especially in the kitchens, fall short on, because they just feel like if I'm not cooking, they don't think I'm worthy, right? I'm not worth the money because I'm not doing what I'm paid to do, and that's cook food. Oh, I don't want to cook anymore, to be honest with you. I don't have to put a pan in my hand again. I've spent 39 years grinding in this business, and if I can stop that and operate at a higher level, and that's what I'm doing now, and trusting my teams to bang it out and having good conversation, good communication, and then mentoring them on their personality traits that I'm identifying they need to change in order to grow and be successful, because I don't want them to stay here. I want them to grow and be something more successful. And they'll look back and go, man, that guy really helped me. You know, he kind of told me the truth. So, you know, and I think that's another thing that's missing is true mentorship, because we're just all trying to just grind away and forget about the bigger picture that one day you're too old to do it.
Yeah, I was talking to a recruiter recently, and I said, tell me about the chef world from where you sit. And she says, well, if I'm looking for chefs that are Michelin qualified, great. You know, because that somehow matters now. And I was like, okay. She says, if I'm looking for somebody who isn't necessarily Michelin star or is just good, you know, a good operator, she says, I struggle like hell. And I said, why is that? She says, because everybody's trying to get the accolades and get on TV and win awards. And so many of those people are not developing their people behind them because they're so focused on themselves. And that for me has created a vacuum. It really has. All the things we're talking about are in some way related to a lot of that. And I think you can probably blame Bobby Flay for that and the Food Network and, you know, and ultimately it's social media, but it's just so interesting the way like that middle tier. She says she can find kitchen managers, no problem. She can find fancy chefs, no problem, but she cannot find just good all around chefs. And I thought, wow, what is like, how is that?
Well,
yeah, you know, it's crazy.
I'll be 55 soon. So, you know, I remember life before, you know, obviously the Food Network. It was when you first came, it was subscription based. You had to actually subscribe to the Food Network.
That's right.
And so I remember when all that came out, and Bobby Flay, Emeril Lagasse. Before that, it was like Graham Kerr and what's that guy's name? I won't mention him because he's a dirtbag. But sorry. So I remember that time. Then what happened is everybody in the 2000s. It was like everybody was like, you could be a rock star, you know, with Top Chef on Bravo coming out, and it was just like, oh yeah, go do some research on all these folks. They're nowhere, right? They're nowhere. And when I was on Hell's Kitchen, one thing I noticed was that everybody that was there, first of all, it's a setup and it's a joke, but whatever. I had a great time.
It's theater. It's theater, straight up.
So you're doing improv, but everybody's got a script. So what happens is most of those people, all they wanted to do is famous. They wanted a way out of it. And I think the biggest thing people forgotten is they've lost the script on what we're doing. We're doing hospitality. You know, when I was a young guy working in Lincoln Park, Chicago, for my mentor chef at Relish, there was a subterranean restaurant, French restaurant, Le Coq, and there was a French chef there. And you'd walk by and you'd see his, like, it was like a half window, you know, it was like a garden apartment, but that's what his kitchen was. And he'd be sitting like 1992. He's sitting in the corner, you know, having a cigarette, you know, in his little kitchen over there, and you could see the kitchen. And I looked, I'm like, that's all I want to do. Like, to me, that was the romance. I didn't really think about, you want to be known as a chef, but I wasn't worried about I just want to be a great chef that people want to eat from. You know, like they want to come there and eat. And I thought, look at that guy. He's kicked back. He's probably miserable as shit. But to me, he looked like he was enjoying his life, you know, sitting in his kitchen, having his cigarette and a little espresso, thinking, you know, I got a dinner service here in 2 hours, you know. So
Yeah.
I remember the time before it all, and I think a lot of things in a lot of people's businesses nowadays is everyone's trying to shortcut their way out. Some of you will, absolutely. Some of them will find a way out, and they'll utilize what they have and the talents, and they'll do a podcast, they'll be an influencer. I begrudge nobody anything that they want to do. But you want to stay in this business for long term, you got to learn hospitality. Remember what we're doing.
Absolutely.
We are cooking for people, and it's gonna suck, and they're gonna not like it, and they're gonna send it back, and they're gonna make mistakes on what they think is right or wrong, and they don't give a shit that you care. We're not always gonna be right. We can't be out there like, get out of my restaurant. You can't do that. He can. They go down all 3 restaurants. No one likes them. So, it's like not everyone can be that. Those are like, I'm gonna become Guns N' Roses. That's not everybody. There's 1,000 million rock bands that thought they'd be the next Guns N' Roses. It's not gonna happen. So understand, probably not going to be anything more than you are, but take care of yourself, take care of your family, and work harder and grind for a better future. And don't get lost in majoring in the minors, and think big picture and read books on how to lead. Take psychological tests like the Colby. Find out what really drives you. Read the book on what's called Your One True Purpose, whatever drives you. I mean, this can help to get there. And again, I try to help my crew understand some of that stuff, but not all my crew cares, right? They're just here for it. So, you got to find those people that want to do more and keep mentoring and keep talking to them, coaching them, because that's what it is too. I'm serving not just customers and members right now, serving my team, and all my knowledge is theirs. And I also think people, probably look at me and he's like, oh, what does he do all day? Like, I don't need to even quantify that question. It doesn't deserve a response, because they couldn't do what I'm doing right now, and I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never look at someone.
Absolutely.
You do all day. I want to do what they're doing all day. How do I get to that point where he looks like he's having fun and not doing shit? How do I get to that level? Right? Oh, he's managing $16 million worth of revenue and looks like he's doing nothing. What does that mean? Ask yourself how that. What am I doing? So stop being cynical and stop blaming others and get your ass in there and figure it out. Especially now, you can literally find anybody to help you. Like, information overload. What do I need to do to get better? How can a chef transition out? Google that, AI that. ChatGPT will tell you. I've already done it. A bunch of different rules will tell you.
Oh, there's just so much information, right? Yeah, it's a wild new world out there. I mean, you and I could probably get on AI for. I know that I have endless conversations about it, and what it is able to do, and the personalities that you can create for it, you know. Um, but I think the big thing for me is that we just keep teaching, right? Like, I'm not in the restaurants anymore. I'm one of those folks who said, okay, 33 is enough. I think, I think that I know that I put in my dues, and I know that I still have stuff to give, and so that's why I actually act as an advisor, and I get to go in and talk to chefs. I've been doing some stuff at culinary schools, where I'm on a technical advisory committee, which is really fascinating to find out like what they're teaching in community college culinary schools. And I'm not really a fan on a couple of them, because I'm just like, there's, yes, cooking, yes, 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 but what about the people skills? What, they call it nowadays, they call them soft skills, and I just gotta shake my head, because there's just nothing soft about communication, right? The way that we convey ideas, the way that we captivate attention, those things are valuable. Probably more valuable than baking perfect bread some days, right? Because if I can teach you how to do something the way I do it, force is multiplied, right? If you can then turn around to your team and say, this is how it's done. This is all the things we're looking for. And guess what? This is how we screw it up really bad. This is how it gets messed up. There's so much power in that.
One of these topics at this conference was talking about like younger generation coming up, and and all this stuff. And they were just ad nauseum go around. I looked at everybody, I go, why are we effing worried about these young, soft people? Like, this isn't the business for that. And I understand, like, I agree with what you're saying. There's a way to train people to be better communicators, right? Because in the middle of a 7:30 rush, the tickets are piling up. No one sat the tables correctly. Now everybody's on edge and pissed off. And they come in and it's like all of a sudden someone starts yelling in your ear. What's your reaction? What's your known learned temperament? Right? And sometimes they go, shut the fuck up and leave me alone. Right? Like I make everybody, Steph, may I call? If I don't answer you, you're not talking. It's no disrespect to anyone, but I got too much stuff on right now that I can't answer that question because I may lose something here, right? So that comes from years of making the mistake of, yes, what do you need? Oh, shit, where'd that ticket go? Oh, it's in my hand. Damn it, right? So point is, we have to take these younger generations, because I think what we're seeing in their musical desires like that, they're all going back to the 90s, right? They're looking for that passionate moment. Make the kitchens passionate again, but then teach them how to communicate better, right? We don't have to, it can be like, you know what? Who gives a shit if it's 3 more minutes? Like, honestly, you know what? If you're going to walk out of my restaurant because of 3-minute wait time, then fuck off, okay? I don't need your business. I don't want your money. Now, that's a dangerous attitude if everybody had it, right? I'm not saying that my line cook should have it. My point is, to a certain point, like, this is your life and your soul, and you're letting them suck it out of you because of a bullshit, fried pickle order that was missed. Everyone fucking relax a little bit. This is not life or death. And if someone walks out, we got caught up in Yelp for years. I hated Yelp. It was just a bitch page. And it was like, we're all being, and I one time, one of the owners came in and started yelling at me about this Yelp review. And I stopped and go, don't ever manage me to a Yelp review. I will never tolerate being managed to a Yelp review. And then I told him, I was there. I'm the person she's talking about. And I showed him the video. She's an effing liar, right? So he's like, holy shit. I go, yeah, don't try to manage people to that stuff. And then eventually he's like, I can't do anything. I can't read those reviews. Those people are horrible. I go, exactly. It had a good thing. It had some good stuff. You could really find out, but it was all just a bitch session. My point is, I'm sorry to go off track there. No disrespect.
Okay, you're good.
My point is, we have to learn to talk and communicate better in the kitchens. And we have to also learn it's not life or death. And if someone's going to fire you because of some bullshit like that, you should be thankful you got fired by a scumbag that you don't have to work for anymore, who's probably just going to take more and more from you anyways. And I have worked for some. So I have done my due diligence to understand that sometimes you just got to say, no, I ain't doing that shit. I had a tasting one time. No one came for an hour to talk to me. No one told me they're all late, an hour. I'm in this kitchen ready to go, nothing. I did my tasting and my attitude stuck because I was like, I'm not doing this. I could have just left. And that's the other thing too. It's like, what is your value worth? Again, it's a dangerous question because too many people want to take the easy way out and say, well, I'm worth more than that. No, you're not. Actually, you're not. Like, you have to be really understanding of who you are and what you're doing. You understand what I'm saying? You can't just, walk out because like, I'm better than that. We've all done that and you're really not. You just full your shit and full yourself. But, sorry. Yeah,
no, it's okay, man. You just brought back my early 20s to me, where I really thought that it didn't matter how I behaved or who I screwed over, because I was in a city that just was bustling with restaurants, and I knew that no matter where I went, I was going to have a job in half a day, and it's funny when you start to behave that way and realize how it affects other people. And I think that's aging, right? And I think that there's as much I was God, stumbling over my words today. As much as I want to be that like Uncle Simon that can help people like not make mistakes, I recognize that we have to make mistakes. We have to fuck some things up. The best way to understand that it hurts when you fall out of the tree is to climb the tree, you know? And so I get into this philosophical conversation with my wife on a regular basis where she's like, I think the work you're doing is great, but you have to understand that sometimes they're just going to make those mistakes, and that maybe you catch them as you're trying to put out that LinkedIn article or you're trying to do a podcast, that they catch it in the right moment, because there's times when they're just gonna go make mistakes. The scumbags are gonna be scumbags. And with any luck, at some point we all learn from our mistakes and we keep moving, right? But it's a fascinating thing. Like, work smarter doesn't always happen unless you work harder. Like, you gotta feel the pain first sometimes.
Sometimes, you know what, the analogy of, you don't want what it feels like to fall out of a tree until you climb it. And sometimes you got to just tell them, like, hey, you know what, it ain't that bad. You're not that hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it really is like with children, don't cry. Don't cry. It's going to be embarrassing, right? You really didn't, it really wasn't a big fall. Okay. Like, so, I mean, that's where sometimes everyone's temperament, right? And I think this all comes from childhood and how you're raised and things like that, where your temperament comes out in the heat of crisis. And I think that's the other thing, is when we talk about these things, like when I validate a young cook too soon, too early in their career, they become prima donnas. And why was I validating them too soon? Because I wanted them to be happy. I mean, and it doesn't mean to be a prick to them, but it's like we over validate too soon. We think something's too valuable too soon. It's like, no, your knife skill sucks. You're slow on the line. You can't multitask. I need you to pick it up. I want you to stay as a team member. I think you got great value for the future. But here's some shit you're not doing right, and I'm kind of getting sick of seeing it. Oh, he's mean. Oh, fuck off and leave. I mean, honestly, like, what am I doing? You're wasting my time. You don't want any kind of feedback that's constructive and concise, then I don't want you. You're going to cost me in the long run. And I think that's why I get aggravated with the younger generation. It's like, and they are, not all of them, but I think the tone is softer in their minds of being yelled at. I'm not. I raised my voice the other day. It's a true story. And this one young lady's been working with me for over 2 years now, and she's like, "Oh, you were really pissed off." And I'm like, "I wasn't pissed off at all. I was aggravated because the station wasn't set up." And I said, give me the excuse. I want to hear why you're not set up at 5 o'clock. Just tell me the excuse. I want to hear why you're not set up." He's just like, I don't have an excuse, Jeff. I go, that's the fucking answer. And I walked away, right? And I'm like, wow. I'm like, you guys would have cried, in the 90s. That was nothing. I was irritated. I wasn't upset and yelling. I was irritated. I am an intense individual, so I know that, I probably, the physicality of my intensity is also what they're reading into. But it's like, and then I pulled that person in, and I sat him in the office. And I said, do you understand why I was pissed off? And he's like, yeah. And I go, explain to me why I was pissed off. Well, what do you mean? I want you tell me why I was pissed off, so that they can understand where I'm coming from, not just me yelling, right?
Right.
Like, I don't apologize for those things, but I want them to understand. Let's have a conversation. You know why I was mad? Why were you not set up? You had 3 hours. What were you doing that you weren't doing your job? Do I have to? I'm not going to micromanage you. I trust you. You're a team member. I value you to get that done. But if I got to babysit you, we got problems. And I think that's maybe a little off topic, but that's that ground level management is important. And then you work your way all the way up through. And you have to teach everyone who is underneath you your way of doing things as well, right? And I think because everyone wants a clear picture. No one wants mom and dad's opinions on how to clean the room. They want mom's opinion and dad's accountability. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think you said it earlier. One of the most fundamental things is we've got to set great expectations, and we've got to give them the information, and I think that from there, I think people will self-select out sometimes, and I think that that's healthy. I also think that sometimes they've just got to see the magic, right? They've got to understand why it can be a great place,
Yeah.
why it can be, and it's always amazing to me when you get that young cook or the fresh cook, right? Sometimes they're 35 years old, going with their second career, and God bless them. I don't think I could have switched careers at 35 myself. And it's that moment of, like, you teach them what that sauce is supposed to taste like, and the aha, and you just see the light in the eye, and, like, there's magic in what we do. And I think that I try to bring that I also tell people, I'm like, there's magic, and then there's also just bitter reality that this is a hard business, and you have to know numbers and you have to know people. It's not just food, right? One of the things that I think I just wrote it on LinkedIn again, and I keep going back to it is being a great cook is not enough to be a great chef, right? You're running $16 million worth of revenue and you're not cooking. And I think that people have to think and absorb that, because there's so many things that we do in the office that look like we're not working. But man, when you get a youngster to understand like what that means, oh, they're just gonna want to run back to the kitchen, you know?
One of my roles is to, have a free mind, right? Because I need to be able to be available to a member who wants to book a wedding here. I have to be able to be free of mind and free of schedule to do certain things that others can't do because they're locked in. They're locked in the station, they're locked into the service. And I have no problem. I walked the kitchen though. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were doing something, and I explained what they were doing wrong, why they're doing wrong, and all of a sudden there's like three other cooks around listening, and they're like, "Never heard that." I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Never heard that." So it's like they're, but it was great because it was like all these sponges were just absorbing everything I was saying, right? And it's like that's when they also realized there's so much shit up here that they could never understand and comprehend. The amount of culinary ability that lives in this head is all, and it's up from the very, very basic bare bone minimum. I was like a stonemason when I was a kid, cooking. It's like that. Now I'm building Trump towers. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the
Yep. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I came from the very, very bottom. I have to talk about, I was a dishwasher first. I never understood that. Gives a shit. You start working in the kitchen. You understood the high intensity heat and the shitty environment that you're going to work in. The most important thing. I started as a cook, and I learned all the way from the basics, and it was a rough time, but I learned massive amounts of skill sets. My knife, I mean, I twirl my kitchen knife like a drum thing, and I did this whole thing with this kid in front of me. I sliced all these little red pepper hairs, not looking at the knife, and I was looking at him, and I was talking to him. He's just like, and his mom's like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't have the smartest thing to go home and try and do it, off his fingers off. But I always wanted great knife skills. I wanted to be a great chef, and then I wanted to be a great operator. I wanted to be manage volume and manage staff, and that's you have to delegate and trust. And then
Yeah.
I'm the first one to get the email, and then I come. Can we talk about this really quick, Chef? I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. Can we just talk about it? Just want to know what happened. Because it's like again, I'm older now.
Yeah.
Nothing's bothering me the way it used to. I'm recognizing, to be honest, I'm recognizing the end of my career is coming closer than I ever imagined ever would. And it's like I'm reflecting back, going, man, I wasted a lot of years of my face in a saute pan when I could have been doing so many other things that could have propelled my career even further. And that's what I'm trying to do. This country club is amazing. I'm having an amazing time right now. And I'm telling these young guys, like, you should stay here for a couple of years. You're really going to catapult yourself because, if you want to go be a restaurant chef and get a Michelin star, there's nothing I can offer you. That's just not what we're going to do. It's not who we are. You want to learn a little bit more about operating and stuff like that? I can teach you. I can teach you basic knowledge, skill set, and culinary too, and fortify your technique. But if you're looking to, make tapioca pearls with foam and gastronomy and stuff, you're at the wrong place. So
Yeah. Uh, I still don't know how to do that stuff.
so when
All
they
right.
had some balsamic pearls and stuff like that, it was cute and cool and all, but I always go back to the foundational. Everyone knows their grandma's food. Everyone knows great Italian food, great Mexican food, great Thai, Thai food, Vietnamese food. It's all basic and simple, and it's just effing delicious. That's
Yep.
really what we. It's something you want that perfect croissant. It doesn't have to have some passion fruit custard filling. No one wants that shit. You know what I'm saying? When it all comes down to it, we want what we want. It's usually a little bit more country home food that really satisfies the soul deeper than some glass beer that breaks open and smoke comes out of it. If that's I'm not any bite, please. I just say that shit because it's just not who I am. People love
That's
it.
okay.
I've experienced it. It's not who I am as a chef, and I love the experience of the rawness of the technique and the skill set. I had these two Vietnamese women work for me at Wheaton College when I ran that program. We were making hanger steaks, right? So we're cleaning all these hanger steaks. And they're like, save everything. All right. I saved all this scraps from the hanger steaks. They made this soup. And I'm like, where'd you get? They're like, it's all living here. I'm like, all that shit that's in the soup, all the spices to make this taste like an authentic Vietnamese, bowl. They're like, yeah, man, it's all the scraps we were throwing away. My mind was just scattered. Like, I really don't know what comes to it. Is it what they need? Insane.
All I care about nowadays is great technique. People ask me like, what's your favorite meal? I'm like, anything that is cooked with great technique. I don't care whether it's spaghetti and meatballs. I don't care whether hell it can be mac and cheese, as long as somebody is doing things in a great, proper way, to yield.
That lives in all of our souls. The basic comfort food of life is what really lives in all of us. And that's just the truth, because you hear everyone say it. Oh man, what I love a pot pie. Well,
right.
What the hell? Right. Even the best chefs in the world, you ask them what's your favorite food, and they'll say some crazy killer grilled cheese. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're making 3-star Michelin food, and they want to
give me a meatball, and I don't care what culture it comes from, but give me a meatball, and I am home. Chef, Thank you so much for coming to play with me in my little sandbox of the world. I really appreciate it. I am going to make sure that in the show notes we can find you, and people can connect with you if they'd like to have a conversation, I would imagine. But more than anything else, I really want to thank you for coming and hanging out with me for a little bit and sharing what you've been through in the world of food and just the restaurant and like I say, the food service industry as a whole. So,
I appreciate it. I really do. I think you're onto something that is necessary for the burnout phase that we all go through, and finding ways to fight through it for the betterment of your own health. Talking to other chefs, the health of them, the health of their families, and their longevity is important. And so I appreciate what you're doing. I'm glad to come on.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you one last thought and this is something that kind of makes people's like their left eyebrow raises. And I tell them, I'm like, staving off burnout, taking care of yourself, it's not just good for you. It's fucking good for business. Like, we're better people when we're focused and we're not burnt and crispy, and when we're optimizing our health and our mental condition. Like, you can operate better. My word to owners and to high-level executives is, if you take care of the machine that is making you money, it will run better. And we are the machine on some levels. So with all of that, Chef Patrick, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you so much. To all you out there, I will catch you on the flip side for the next Culinary Mechanic. You've been listening to Culinary Mechanic. This show exists to help you lead with more clarity, build systems that actually work, and create a kitchen culture worth showing up for. If this episode helped you move even one step in that direction, do me a favor, leave a quick review. It helps more chefs and operators stop the chaos and start leading with intention.